they led to very large areas being burnt. And progressively, fire has become such a common practice that so many people think it is a normal cultural practice.
It really started as an economic imperative for clearing land for cultivation, whether it be for livestock or for sugarcane. So this forest fire management plan, this move to contain and change the culture of this burn-off system, but how does this get traction? How does this get underway? How does the education plan progress?
Yes, it's really such a major challenge because of this deeply embedded thinking and practice. We have developed over several months and based on an initial national stakeholder consultation, and we've had very good input into that process from foresters beyond borders in Australia who've contributed in a voluntary sense. Two of their experts who have been involved in fire management came out under their own time and volunteered their contribution. And we had this initial workshop where we got all the key stakeholders together, governmental, private sector and entities like the National Fire Authority. And over several days we developed a pretty solid framework for a national fire strategy, and we're now in the process of further consultations on the draft. So the elements of the strategy are quite varied, and naturally there's a heavy focus on education and awareness and good governance. But we also will be looking at legislation and disincentives to starting fires, ad hoc, as so many do. The draft framework will then be fine-tuned and submitted through the Ministry of Agriculture, and we hope it will go up to Cabinet for consideration in the next stages.
So what are the options for villagers and farmers beyond burn-offs and clearings? You've talked about disincentives, but what are the incentives to improve practice?
Well, we know in the sugar area there have been an incentive developed for a higher price for sugar that is produced from a system that's not involved burning. We need to build on that and create greater awareness within the other crop sectors, but that's not so easy. It's difficult to get traction. And really, at the end of the day, we need a national awareness campaign, also concentrating on the younger generation through the school curriculum. Many of the adults of today are not going to change that easily, whereas the younger people will be much more amenable to change. Those are the main areas that we're focusing on in the strategy. But it's a whole area of governance and environmental awareness too. The burning, for example, the initial damage is to the plant cover, but we haven't been very cognizant of the damage to the soil health, for example, and then flooding as a consequence of siltation of water systems. That's causing a lot of heartache now, and beyond that, the siltation that goes out into the marine sector, we know is impacting negatively on reefs, and many of those reefs in the Western Division in particular are very close to tourism plant, and at the end of the day, the whole problem is going to impact food security, our ability to be more food secure.
That's Nature Fiji's Robin Yarrow. You're listening to RNZ Pacific's Dateline. Still to come on today's program, a target to reduce shipping emissions is welcomed, but is the technology there? And the legacy of Mana Mea Pelushwalga, who worked for those with cancer in Samoa while fighting her own battle. But first, a systems analyst is encouraging more Pacific young people to pursue careers in technology and contribute to regional projects. Anil Tessam says he moved into tech after he had worked in education and built up a language database in the Cook Islands. Now he works at the Pacific Islands Forum Fisheries Agency in Solomon Islands, and says there are so many challenges in fisheries, including digitising documents and coding key data. He spoke to Sara Vuitaletu at a Pacific Tech Summit last week in Auckland.
When I came back from uni, there were no tech jobs in the Cooks, so I ended up teaching for a little bit. Born in PNG, so my mom is Cook Islander, my dad is Papua New Guinean. Yeah, so after teaching, I went into the Ministry of Education for a little bit, and then then I quit that and just became a consultant for a little bit. Did a few projects in Raro, and then built the Cook Islands Māori database, which was a language project. got a few awards for that, and I got a call one day from the Pacific Islands Foreign Fisheries that they needed like a systems analyst, so I just applied for the job, didn't think much about it. A few months later,
You got it.
they called me up, yeah, you got the job, and then I've been there for the last coming up to 3 years now. Didn't know anything about it, starting to get a good idea of what it is now, and then it's just, okay, now buckle down and start getting stuff moving and getting the work done. Yeah, so that's basically my journey in it.
What's your advice to youth, young people?
Find out what you like doing and what you're good at, and then just follow that, because that's basically what I did. And sometimes you'll go around the roundabout way to get to where you want to really be, and sometimes you just don't know, and then it'll find you. But it's just, I mean, some kids are lucky and they know what they want to do when they grow up. Some aren't. You'll find it eventually. It's just make sure you work hard at whatever it is that you're doing and give it your all.
And what would you say for young people is the biggest barrier to getting into tech? Like, is it money, or is it the fact that you need to do coding? What's the one of the bigger hurdles?
It's not money. You can learn coding on the internet, but it's like, first you got to be passionate, and then you got to be smart. Like, tech is one of those things that it's like, there's a certain level of smart that you need to be to that, because it's super hard and not everyone can do it. So if you can't do it, then that's fine. That's okay. You can do like sales and marketing and support those tech guys that can do it, because you can get in different parts of tech, and it doesn't have to be coding. It can be these other parts that are just as valuable. So my advice is, tech is big enough to accommodate all the different types of personalities and whatever. But if you want to get into the coding side, you just got to be passionate about it first of all, and smart. Those are basically your only two criteria for that job, or for getting into that. Everything else is easy. It's easier. That's why not many people do tech, and there's a high failure rate in our courses and stuff. But I think in the next couple of years that will probably change, because I don't think coding might be as important moving forward, because a lot of the stuff will get automated away.
That's for Pacific Islands Foreign Fisheries System Analyst Arnold Chesam. The shipping industry says there needs to be more research into new technology before emissions targets set by the International Maritime Organization can be reached. Pacific nations were central to pushing a deal that was struck this month by more than 170 countries at the IMO to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2050. That's compared to 2008 levels. The chief executive of the World Shipping Council, John Butler, told Tim Glasgow that while the industry supports efforts to cut emissions, there is currently no technology that will allow them to reach this target.
In the short term, the industry will continue to do what it's been doing, and particularly in the container sector. The efficiency of vessels, over the last 15 years has increased dramatically. And that's through a combination of more efficient engines, better design, in some cases larger vessels which have better per cargo unit profiles in terms of industry use, etc., better bottom coatings, propeller design. There are all sorts of things that are being done today that are making the ships more efficient. But at some point, you can only make a ship so carbon efficient burning fossil fuel. It's with respect to that next jump, it's not necessarily energy efficiency, but in terms of reducing carbon emissions. At some point, if you were going to get to the 50% absolute reduction goal, rather obviously you can't be burning fossil fuels.
So for the shipping industry, what are the alternatives to using fossil fuels?
There's nothing, Tim, at this point that is a mature technology that gets us there. This is not a situation where the IMO sets a very high standard for the purpose of causing somebody to switch to a known technology. There is no known technology that is available to put on a ship to get us to these goals. In order to get to these goals, it will be necessary to stand up a very substantial research and development exercise or effort in order to figure out which technologies are most promising and then pursue those technologies to the point where they can be safely and commercially deployed on a vessel.
The research into these technologies really is the first step that needs to be taken.
Yeah, I just don't see that there's any other way to get from where we are today to where we say we're going without some sort of technological breakthrough. And it may not be one thing. It may be some version of biofuels coupled with using fuel cells for auxiliaries or any number of things. And there are all sorts of things that have gotten some research and development effort over recent years, but frankly the scale of those efforts is currently not sufficient to get us where we need to go in a timeline that's being discussed.
That's the World Shipping Council's John Butler. A former Miss Samoa and South Pacific beauty queen who lost her battle with breast cancer recently is being remembered for her work to build awareness and the importance of early detection. The work of Mana Mea Apelishwalga to improve support and awareness for cancer patients will continue. That's according to the CEO of Samoa's Cancer Society. Shelley Burridge told Sara Vuitaletu she leaves a lasting legacy of improving the situation for cancer patients in Samoa.
From the time that she knew that she had cancer, 3.5 years ago, she came walking into my door and saying, "Okay, Shelley, what can I do? I want to create change. I want to use my time here to really promote and enforce the awareness of breast cancer, and I want to make change for improvement." So that was her main goal. She never faltered from that. She was always one that, sometimes we couldn't keep up with her. She had so much energy and spirit and determination, and in a way she helped us with the same type of strength, with the determination and her spirit. When I spoke at her service, I said, she may be gone, but she's with us forever, and we will continue her legacy. We will continue to push for more awareness, not only in breast cancer, but for all cancers, and that's what Mana Mea would have wanted, the need for change and improvement for our society and our cancer patients here in Samoa.
What would you say are some of the challenges particularly pertinent to Samoa in relation to this work?
I think the main challenge is just the lack of resources that are available. The society, one of our main aims is to really push awareness and the signs and symptoms of cancer, and to educate our people about cancer and the importance of early detection. But unfortunately, while we do all this, there's just not enough resources to allow people to come in for proper diagnosis, treatment. There's no treatment options, so they're very limited to what they can be offered. She certainly went through all of that herself, and she struggled to get to New Zealand for treatment through the government overseas treatment scheme. And I think she realised that not everybody has the support that she had with her family and her friends, where they helped get her to where she needed to be, helped her get all her treatments done. Even when, I think it was on the second cycle when Samoan government were unable to fund, her family took her back and they rallied together. So she really wanted to advocate more for what was needed here in Samoa that could help the people, the cancer patients, overseas for treatment.
But she was responsible for things like the clock tower being pink.
So every year we do Pinktober, and from the time that she just said, okay, I'm going to really push breast cancer, what can I do? So she took our lead and she just helped us. She's got such a wide network of friends and family and government and schools everywhere in Samoa, and she just used her network of friends and family to make things happen, which is very evident with her Miss Samoa alumni, being an ex-Miss Samoa and Miss South Pacific.
Would you say some of the words that might sum up what people...
We talked a lot about her spirit, her determination, and her husband, Alan, main words that she... and hope.
That was the Chief Executive of Samoa's Cancer Society, Burridge. And that's Dateline from RNZ Pacific. There's always plenty more on our website, rnzi.com. I'm James Tahana, joining you all far.
Hello, ¿qué tal? Come the morning. You're listening to RNZ Pacific.
We are going to ask all the kids to sit together.
And one of the teachers at the Czech school it's every fortnight on a Friday evening in Wellington.
Make sure that they get into the Czech mode, so to speak.
Yes. So for our listeners, we are actually in Tiaro People, aren't we? Is that right?
Yes, we are.
She's also one of 5 authors behind the New Zealand Czech community's soon-to-be-published bilingual children's book, celebrating the contrasting life in New Zealand with life back in the Czech Republic.
Such as Czech Easter or San Nicolas's Day, which is in December.
And how many children do you normally have? It looks like quite a big crowd today, which is lovely.
I think we have got about 17 kids come to, the kind of semi-regular. Some are really little, some of them are a bit old.
You're going to explain.